Technology is scary.
Technology!
Like, I'm old enough to remember the early days of the internet when we needed, like, Luke Perry and Jennifer Aniston to explain to us how Windows 95 worked, and the threat of the Y2K bug was a real thing that was actually, like, in the back of people's minds. I mean, even today, you can still look back at websites that were built during that era, and they still have, like, a weird aura about them. Like, they just seem off. In reality, this was, like, the perfect primordial stew for a movie like 2001's Pulse or Cairo to be born in. This is a time when people were starting to become isolated, and the possibility of ghosts being on the World Wide Web was something that could actually be happening for all we know. There's literally no other time in our modern history where a movie like Pulse could have existed. Like, this was just the perfect storm. Pulse consists of two separate storylines that eventually intersect. The first being about a new Tokyo arrival named Miki, who works for a plant store with fellow employee Taguchi, and after Taguchi stops coming into work after working on a disc for the shop, disc being like, you know, like a floppy disk, that's how old this movie is, Miki goes to his apartment to figure out where he's went. She finds him, and after a short interaction, she goes to grab the disc, but soon after, she finds Taguchi has hung himself. But something's off, you know, like his body doesn't look fresh. You know, bro looks like an avocado that was on the counter for one day too long, you know what I mean? So if that's the case, who the hell was she just talking to? Spooky. The other plot line is about a college student named Ryosuke signing up for an internet service provider via a CD, because that was a thing that we used to have to do. Yes, we had to install internet on our computers and then pay for hours. Kids these days just don't know the struggles, man. But as soon as he gets it installed, it automatically starts showing him footage of people just standing around being creepy and shit. Nowadays, this is the kind of thing you'd associate with the dark web, and people would be making YouTube videos about it. After understandably shitting themselves, he goes to his school's computer lab to find help. Yes, this was also a thing that actually existed. We had actual classrooms full of computers it was literally a class that you went to. It was like an actual period of time. Like, we literally had to learn how to use computers. That's how new these things were at the time. Nowadays, kids just kind of slide out of their moms with an iPad in their hands already. Fun fact, back in my school lab days, I used to install the demos for M-rated games like Dino Crisis and Resident Evil 3, and then my teachers would get mad at me for playing it in front of the students. Now, Pulse is one of those movies that excels at slowly drowning you with dread with its weird dreamlike look and its heavy reliance on subtle scares. I despise jump scares, alright? I think they're one of the worst tropes of horror movies, unless they're earned, but nowadays, no movie earns them, they just throw them at you. So anytime a movie aims to creep you out with subtlety, you know, I'm game. And there's like so many moments scattered throughout Pulse that are just eerie enough to make your hair raise up. It also features arguably one of the greatest ghost scenes in any Japanese horror movie. Even if you haven't seen Pulse, you've more than likely seen this scene if you have even a modicum of interest in Asian horror cinema. It's slow, you can't look away from it. It's just, it's off-putting. And fun fact, this scene was originally supposed to be done using CGI, but thankfully wasn't, because the times that they do use CGI in this movie, it looks like this. Yeah, this ain't it, man. We soon come to realize that the ghosts within the internet are invading the human world because the digital world they exist in doesn't got no Digimon or anything fun. Their world sucks, it's just death and eternal loneliness. And by invading our world, anyone who comes into contact with a ghost ends up ending their own lives because the ghosts sap away your will to live. And the only way to keep the dead confined is to seal up every opening to a room with technology in it with red tape. Now, why the red tape? It's because in Japan, the color red is seen as a way to ward off spirits. It's like a spiritual thing. And the remake, they do something completely different with it, but whatever. Now, why is all this happening? Wi-Fi. Look, in 2001, Wi-Fi was still a completely new concept. We're still talking about a time when every computer needed to be plugged into a landline in order to access the internet, alright? And connecting to dial-up just sounded like two androids fucking in your PC tower. Like, it was awful. It was the dark ages. Like, the idea of a wireless signal giving you internet access was like black magic back then. You know, maybe those whack jobs from like the COVID days who used to think that COVID was caused by 5G towers, you know, maybe those guys weren't crazy. Maybe they were onto something. Even if this movie is incredibly slow by today's standards and a little difficult to follow if you're not really paying attention to it, the early 2000s, they were just peak for Asian horror films. This was a time of transition and unknowns, like new technology like the internet as we know it, chat rooms, mobile phones, they were all in their infancy, and as a result, people were slowly becoming more and more isolated and introverted. And despite all that, and what classics like Ringu, Ju-on, One Missed Call, and Pulse insinuate, I'll always look back at those times fondly. And movies that were all born of this time, such as Pulse, are like a fantastically creepy time capsule for new generations to look back at the way things used to be for us. Now, take everything positive that I just said about Pulse, throw it into a blender, take a dump in the blender, rev it up with some ice, make a good poop smoothie, then you end up with the remake.
What do they want? They want what they don't have anymore. They want life.
So while Japan and Asia in general were busy releasing some of the most atmospheric and dread-inducing horror movies ever made, Hollywood was there to find ways to fuck it up. As usual. Thus, in 2006, the Pulse remake was thrust from the grundle of Dimension Films upon the world. Things have never been the same. Oh, and Wes Craven wrote the screenplay. Well, he co-wrote it anyway. How the hell did that happen, might you be asking? So originally, the script for this thing was written by both Wes Craven and Vince Gilligan in 2002. You know, the creator of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, only two of the greatest television shows ever created. Like, I want to see that version of Pulse, you know? Like, it's some kind of sick joke that this is the one we got instead. And you can thank the Weinsteins for that one. Just before the Pulse remake in 2002 was supposed to start production, the Weinsteins pulled the plug on it so that they could kind of force Wes Craven's hand into directing that shitty werewolf movie with Christina Ricci that was called Cursed or something like that. Do you guys remember that movie? I barely do. It was ass. But they wanted that instead of Pulse. Fucking Weinsteins, man. As if sexual harassment wasn't bad enough, you know? And from there, the movie jumped between various screenwriters, including screenwriter Tim Day, whose writing credits include Hellraiser Hellseeker and Hellraiser Deader. You know, classics. Classics in the horror genre. And eventually, in 2006, with Wes Craven's name somehow still attached to it, and the director of a Mariah Carey music video and cutscene direction from Resident Evil 5, not the movie, the game. So you know this is gonna be good. There's no way this could be bad. We got Pulse, and now I have to sit through it and talk about it. Oh hell yeah, a jump scare already, huh? How long are we in? Less than 5 minutes? Good. I was kind of worried they wouldn't do that. A huge problem with these Hollywood remakes, particularly of Asian horror movies, is that they seem to think that English-speaking viewers are dumb as fucking rocks and just can't sit through any movie that isn't constantly assaulting your senses with jump scares and flashy editing, or, you know, spelling out every little thing for you. All subtlety and context just goes out the window with these things. So instead of a flower shop worker, our lead this time is a college student played by Kristen Bell, and her group of friends that are about as obnoxious and unlikable as you'd expect from a movie like this. You know, it kind of feels like you get something you'd get from a slasher or something. You know what? It feels like a Wes Craven cast. Touche, I guess. Fuck me. And they try to recreate a bunch of the scenes from the original movie, and this is really where you can see the differences between, like, Japanese cinema and Hollywood. Belle goes to her boyfriend's place, you know, the guy who got his soul sucked at the very beginning, and they do the whole hanging scene again, but where Cairo did it slowly, moody, and made you question if the guy she was talking to was actually a ghost or not. The remake already showed the guy getting attacked by a ghost in the library, so every ounce of mystery or dread that they could have rang out of this, it's already gone. They also try to recreate the infamous ghost lady scene, but God forbid they don't show much. Audiences might look away for a second if we don't immediately show her face, throw in some glitch effects, and assault the screen some more with shitty CGI. Hell yeah, thank God. I was worried they wouldn't do that. I was worried they'd be subtle about it. And it's hilarious when they actually do try to be subtle, because you get shit like the scene where Belle's printer starts randomly printing out a bunch of images that when combined form a face, but her reaction... That's stupid as hell, because she's already been seeing these things throughout the movie, so why would she be surprised by this? And I guess the ghosts get bored, because there's a scene where one of the characters is doing laundry, and a ghost starts tossing her laundry out of the machine, just for shits and giggles, I guess. I mean, if you can turn into a weird spider thing and appear out of nowhere, was fondling her dirty laundry necessary to, like, try to lure her towards the opening? Like, there's literally no reason for that. And like the general plot line of the movie is the same as the original, but this one leans more heavily into the apocalyptic side of it. It eventually starts to feel like a zombie movie, but without the zombies as the ghosts start taking over the world, you know. They even remake the plane crash sequence, but somehow it looks worse than the original, and that's crazy, because we're talking Japanese CGI from 2001. That wasn't exactly the golden age of Japanese effects, and somehow they did it better than Hollywood. And while I am basically just holding this movie down in a puddle of muck and dragging it, it does have a sequence that I did like, and that was when Rick Gonzalez's character gets sucked into the wall and becomes one of the black stains. Sure, it's got a lot of jank to it, but it's body horror enough for my liking, you know, like that kind of looks cool. Oh, and for really no reason whatsoever, there's a Brad Dourif cameo.
It makes all the sense in the world. Do you have any idea of the amount of data that's floating out there? The amount of information we just beam into the air? We broadcast to everyone where we are and we think we're safe?
And you know what? Fucking 10 out of 10. You could never have enough Brad Dourif. I don't care. You know what the worst thing about this is that there's 2 sequels, man. They've made 2 sequels to this. And I respect my free time too much to sit through those. Now, would this movie have been any better if we'd gotten the original version that Vince Gilligan wrote? I don't know. Either way, this remake falls into the same category as other movies like The Grudge and One Missed Call, Shudder, The Eye. Just Hollywood remakes of Asian movies that completely missed the point and were just inferior in every way to the original versions. There were a lot of these things spreading like a fucking plague back in the early 2000s. It was insane. And yeah, I know The Ring came out that same year, like in that same period, but The Ring is like an outlier. All right, that's one of the very, very few good ones. The rest, no. Like, I don't know what it was about that time period. There was just so many of these movies coming out. And in all honesty, you're doing yourself a disservice by watching the remakes. The originals are always going to be better. Japan just knows how to do horror. When as soon as it comes out to like Hollywood, it's just jump cuts and jump scares and flashy editing. All the characters are stupid. There's nothing redeeming about it. This movie sucks. Watch the original movie. It's a slow burn, but it's infinitely better.